Southeastern Bow Hunter Podcast.
Guys, welcome to another episode of Southeastern Bow Hunter Podcast. In this episode, we are going to get my buddy Scott Balkan back on from Dialed to talk all about the new site that they came out with a few months ago called the PRÜF. Dude, it is an amazing site. So you guys have heard me talk about it. Now we get to hear it straight from the horse's mouth, all the new stuff that the PRÜF offers and why you need to make a switch over to Dialed if you haven't already. Before we get into that, you obviously know we have to do the partners. I'm going to try to run through these a little bit quick. There might be some stuff that I'm going to talk about that is either going to be new or some things that have been happening. So stay tuned for that. First up is going to be Working Class Bow Hunters. Y'all know Working Class has been not only my favorite podcast to listen to and the reason why I started podcasting, but also one of the partners that I am so thankful for. I mean, I'm very thankful for every single partner we have. It's one of those things that you kind of just don't think's ever going to happen. And getting to partner with Working Class has been a blessing in itself, just like every other partner we work with. So, getting to bring that to you guys, we have a code for y'all. It is SEBH15, and that will save you 15% on all the merch on workingclassbowhunter.com. They make really good quality products from hats to shirts to koozies, all of that stuff. So definitely go check them out and also listen to their podcast. Next up is going to be G5 and Prime. So planning on some hog hunts next month and throughout this summer. May go hunt some turkeys on public land. And I plan on using G5 for my broadheads really for the foreseeable future. I have been a huge fan of the Mega Meat. It has always done me good. But I am going to be testing out the Dead Meat V2 and also the T2, which is the new broadhead that G5 just came out with, I believe, last year. Really, really solid designs on all these broadheads. Okay. I've heard nothing but good things about G5. I've experienced nothing but good things from G5. If you're not an expandable guy, they also offer four different fixed blades. They've got the original Montec, which is something that every bow hunter I'm sure has used at some point. They have the Montec M3, which is the same exact design as the Montec, but it's a solid head. Then they have, they also have the Striker V2, which is a 3-blade replaceable blades that has some of the sharpest blades I've ever seen on the market. And then they also have the Striker X, which is the same thing as the Striker, but a 4-blade. So they pretty much cover everything. They also have some small game heads you can try. G5 is, in my opinion, as far as expandables go, definitely at the top of the list. They have shown out for the past few years, and the Mega Meat is the highest selling broadhead for the past 3 years. And then as far as fixed blades go, they make it simple and they make it accurate and they make it reliable. So what else could you want? So definitely go check out G5. If you want to get a set of the Mega Meats or the T2s, you can go to bergiebowsmith.com and use the code SEBH10 to save 10%. He is a dealer for G5 and he can get you any of those broadheads that you need. We're just trying to save you a little bit of money. Now Prime is man, I don't even know where to begin with that. Prime is an awesome bow company. Let's just say that. The innovation that I've seen out of Prime is second to none. They just dropped this new bow called the Form. It's the bow that I'm going to be shooting. You'd still see my bareback there. That's going to be my backup, but I am going to be getting the Prime Form in Recon Gray. I've been calling it Ghost Gray, but I just realized that was not the color. So I'm getting that bow in Recon Gray with Osseo limbs. And I'm extremely excited. I shot it up at our local archery shop, and it was the best shooting bow that I've ever shot. I did shoot it against all of the other flagships to get an actual accurate idea of what I'm talking about. And I'm telling you, you will not be disappointed. Prime has the center grip technology, which I love because it creates more stable platform. That new Form has, I think Brian said it was like 8,000 pounds of strength, that it took 8,000 pounds to break the riser, which is absolutely insane. It's the first hybrid bow that I've ever seen. It's got aluminum where it needs to be, carbon where it needs to be. They melded it together, and now they have an amazing bow that I think is going to take the archery world by storm. I've seen a lot of people be shooting it. I know Scotty at Bowtique just got a custom color Prime Form, really sick. I really need to get him on here, but Prime is just an amazing company. They always try to innovate stuff. They have the aerogel grips, which keeps your hand warm in the coldest conditions. That is NASA approved. Okay. So for all y'all that are like, oh, it's, my grip's so cold, I use grip tape. You don't have to anymore. You get a Prime, comes with it already, and you're set to go. So they also offer the RVX Plus in a 32-inch ATA and a 34-inch ATA. Excuse me, ATA. The prime form is a 34-inch ATA, but see, I said it to Brian, and I've said it a couple more times. I'm not really a huge fan of the really long ATAs, but what got me about the form is it doesn't feel like it. Feels like a regular 33. Feels like, honestly, very similar to my bow. It's the center grip technology that causes that. So if you're in the market for a new bow, I highly recommend you check out Prime. Go to their website, primearchery.com, and you can build out your own form. You can check out the RVX 32 or 34. Dude, just awesome bows, awesome company, Christian owned, really something that I care a lot about is trying my best to work with family-owned companies. And some of the partners are, and some of the partners aren't. But even the partners that aren't act really like a family-owned company. They're very social, very personal, and I love that. So definitely go check those out. Next up is going to be the Bowtique. So me and Michael are working on some stuff. We're talking about a promo build. He has got a bunch of different pre-made wraps, pre-made designs, custom designs. You can do all that stuff. He is 2 weeks out though on the pre-made orders, and he has 4 weeks out on the custom orders. So if you're planning on going to TAC, get your order in now so you can get your build back, and you can go ahead and have those really cool looking arrows before you head out to the shoot. Use the code SEBH15 at checkout to get free shipping. Next up is going to be Osseo gear. Me and Joe were talking today about some stuff. There's some stuff that I'm going to try and see if I can't get kind of collaborative on. But Osseo gear is, man, probably the coolest. I would say the coolest camo company that's on the market. It's based off of owl feathers. They call it Predator. I believe it's called Predator camo, but it is really, really unique, and it's really, really effective. I had deer looking at me all season this past season. Honestly, there was one doe that spotted me. Everybody else, they had no idea I was there. Blends in really well. It's very quiet. It's great material. So go to osseogear.com and look at all of the stuff that they have to offer. They've got jackets, pants, early season, late season, mid season, all that stuff. And you can use the code SEBH to save 15% site wide. Next up is going to be Summit tree stands. So some big news from Summit. I actually have only told a select few of buddies that I talk to every day about this. But before I get into that, Summit is a staple in the tree stand industry. Okay, so they've been running climbers for years. They've got hang-ons, they've got sticks, they've got accessories, they've got harnesses, all of that stuff. I actually am going to be using the Summit climbing sticks that they offer this coming season with one of my hang-ons, maybe two. Trying to be more mobile. I am still going to use the climber. Definitely plan on using that. I'm getting some new. What are they called? I always forget. I think it's the good Lord, botching this. This is terrible. It's the cables, the replacement cables. I'm getting some of those to, replace on the climber. Not that the ones I have are bad. It's just, I was pretty rough on that climber, and I did leave it out sometimes, and it rusted just a smidge where the rubber got ripped off. So, I'm big on safety. I always want to have the safest stuff. So I'm getting the new replacement cables for when I hit public. I can use that climber to get in a tree and try to kill one of those bucks. But if you want to go to Summit, if you want to get a new climber, you want to get sticks, hang on, accessories, harnesses, whatever, you can use the code SEBH15 to save you 15% site wide. Next up is going to be Scoutek. So my Scoutek cameras have been working great. I need to start actually doing some early off-season prep. I need to get some food out, start getting ready for food plots, because we're going to be planting food plots this year, and also pick out some new trees for the hang-on setup. I've never used a hang-on. It's going to be interesting, but I'm very excited about it. My Scoutek cameras are showing me where these deer are, so I know where to set up. So go to scoutek.com. They are going to be coming out with a new camera in multiple different colorways. All of y'all are really going to love it once it comes out. And I'm really excited about that. They've also got updates to the app coming. They've got, good Lord, man, I need to call Ryan and figure out what else is going on. But yeah, Scoutek is a great company, so I really think you guys should give them a shot. Go to scoutek.com, look at everything they got. Let me know what you think. Next up is going to be Ace Hardware in Social Circle. That's where I go to get my bow checked out, tuned, adjusted if there's something that I can't adjust. It's where I shot the new form. Really good bow shop in Social Circle. And, I've got buddies that work there, and they're all really good dudes. They're all really good dudes. If you need anything, they will take care of you. They sell all the major brands. They have all the major bow company brands. So go there, check them out. If it's a drive, I'm sorry, but you won't regret it. Next up is going to be Bergie Bowsmith. I already kind of mentioned Bergie a little bit. He is a dealer for a lot of the big brand names that we all use. He is also a bow wizard. So if you want to get your bow like technically dialed in, just tuned and everything to a T, bare shafted out to 15 yards, he's your guy. So use the code SEBH10 to save you 10%. That is on everything. Obviously, Dialed Archery. We're going to be talking with Scott today about that. So normally I'd be telling you guys, check out the PRÜF and all this stuff, but we're going to dive into it. So I think you'll be convinced. But last but not least is going to be Camo Dust. Camo Dust is my scent control company that I use. I think I've been using them now for like 2 years, and it has been amazing. I have gone in on the wrong wind. I have gone in on a whiskey wind. I've gone in on all of that, and I've never been smelled. As long as you do it right, you won't get smelled. I mean, you might. Okay, let me retract that. You might get smelled, but they're not going to smell you as if you're right there. They're going to smell you as if you're like 300 yards away, and the deer don't really care. So definitely go to camodust.com and check out all that they have to offer. My recommendation is the 6-pack because that will last you an entire deer season. And yeah, tell them we sent you. So that's all the partners. Okay, that is all the partners. You guys know I do this every single episode. I don't even know why I say that anymore. But if you don't know who Jesus Christ is yet, I really, really, really wish that you would. I don't wish. I pray that you open your mind to it, open your heart to it. Some of the things I've had 2 buddies of mine. Okay, I'm going to tell you guys 2 stories real quick. One of my best friends, another one of my best friends. One of them was driving along and he got his tag. His tag has been out. He's been trying to get the tag renewed, but the county he lives in makes it really difficult for some reason. They claim a bunch of stuff, and he just hasn't been able to do it. Okay, so the other day he was driving along, got pulled over, and was cited for the tag, tint, exhaust, and a light bar. It turned out to be an $800 ticket, and the court day landed on his birthday. So he was stressed and he was really worried. I told him when he told me all this, I was like, look, man, I know that sounds hard and it sucks. I hate to have you, but pray about it. Just give it over to Jesus for a minute. Let him work his magic. Let him do his thing. And you will see results. And dude, he did that. Called me up 2 days later, said that he ran into another cop. Same thing, got pulled over because of the tag. He had just left the tag office. Ran into another cop. They were talking for a little bit and he told him what happened. The cop ended up getting rid of all of the stuff that he got cited for. So if that ain't God working, I don't know what is. Another thing is one of my good buddies had a really, really rough day today recording this. Okay, I wasn't even going to talk about this, but recording on the day of recording this episode. He called me this morning. He was just in a terrible mood. He was having a rough day. Everything was not going his way. And he's been having this thing with a certain outdoor company that he's been really trying to solidify and get to work with them. Pretty much leave the industry he's in now to come into our industry. And dude, he called me a couple hours ago and was like, dude, you won't believe what happened. Turns out it's all working out. He's going to be working with that company now. And he was super stressed. Now he's super happy. And I told him, I was like, look, man, you remember the other day that story I told you about with my buddy? Well, this is your story now. So, and I know he prayed about it. We've been praying about it. I've been praying about it for him. And it's really, really exciting to see God working in other people's lives, not just my own, because, I see it. But if I told everybody every single time that happened, it would get redundant. People will get tired of it. And, I don't want to do anything that'll push people away from the Lord. My job is to push you to him, not away from him. So hope you guys enjoyed those stories. Hope you guys enjoyed the intro. If you want to check out any of those brands or have any questions on stuff, just reach out to me and I can get all those questions answered. But yeah, look, Scott is waiting on us. This is going to be a really good episode. I'm very excited about it. Let's get started with Scott Balkan from Dialed Archery. We got the man, the myth, the legend, my boy, Scott Balkan from Dialed Archery back on the podcast. Unfortunately, Scott, it's been way too long. I don't know what happened. I don't know if I lost track of time. You've been busy, whatever it is, but you're finally back. So before we dive into this new site that you guys came out with, that I do have to say, I never thought the Arxos could get any better, but this PRÜF is it's pretty solid. Mm-hmm. It's really solid. So I want to dive into that, but before we do, what's been going on, man? What's been going on with you since, what was it, last summer when you came on?
Yeah, man, I don't even remember. I mean, it seems like it was just yesterday, but I know it hasn't been. But yeah, it's amazing how fast, time flies. And but yeah, whenever it was, I mean, there's been a lot. I mean, it's just been 2024 was a very busy year for us, obviously with still cruising along with the Arxos and building the PRÜF in the background and putting that launch plan together. So yeah, it's I feel like I did a lot like last year, but then when I think about it, I can't really think of anything I did other than tack events, which eat up your whole summer, and then you go into fall, and I didn't hunt near enough, which that seems to be a more common or more frequent occurrence. But no, man, I mean, we just been cranking away and trying to grow and yeah, just keep moving forward. And like I said, it's crazy to think that we're creeping up on the end of February already, and we just briefly before this, it's like tack events are right around the corner, and I mean, it's like in the back of my mind, I feel like the year's already over. As far as like on the calendar, I mean, it's just crazy. But no, yeah, we just been very busy. I mean, I guess that's really all I can say. It's just been very busy, so which is good.
Yeah, I mean, y'all do kind of have a good problem to have, which is, being super busy and innovating in sites and all that stuff and everything else. And man, you ain't lying about feeling like time's just flying. Like I had a photo yesterday of this buck I was chasing last season that I called Dead Eye because he's got one bad eye, one good eye.
Hmm.
And that's the only reason I know it's him is because this deer showed up and his eye is black. There's no
Hmm.
reflection. And I've kind of been a little bit not really putting hunting stuff on the back burner, but taking a break. It's my daughter starting softball this Saturday,
Hmm.
and we've been doing trips. Like we just got back from Colorado 2 weeks ago, which let me tell you, Colorado is amazing. Like we saw two, I had to guess 400-inch bulls 2 minutes from my uncle's place. And I'm like, I looked at him, I was like, why are you going, 30, 40 miles north when you could just go in your backyard?
Right.
So it was nuts, man. But yeah, that deer showing up kind of got me back on track with it, where it's like now I'm going to start, looking for sheds again, feeding,
Yeah.
scouting. We I'll tell you off of this, but me and a buddy are on this buck that I think is going to be quite the talk of the town. It's not something I expected us to be able to hunt, honestly. So when we get off of here, I'll tell you about that. But
Oh yeah, I mean, I'll just tell you now, if you need an outsider to come down and take care of it, so you don't get too much publicity and stuff, just let me know. No,
I'll
nobody cares or knows who I am, so it'll stay quiet.
I'll talk to one of my buddies about it.
But no,
um,
you brought up an interesting point because it's something that it's been this year and even end of last year, but like this year for sure just kind of has like a weird like vibe to it. You know what
mhm,
I mean? And we've been talking about it quite a bit here recently, like, and with us being in the frozen tundra where it's been double digits below zero for the last 2 weeks, which like sucks so bad.
good Lord,
But
man.
so I don't know if we're just kind of starting to go crazy a little bit, and
Yeah,
or shit. But yeah, this year just like it just seems like there hasn't really been a lot of excitement. You know what I mean? And a lot of people just kind of seem like um, just blah. Like there's
yeah,
just nothing really to be excited about. But yet, like for me, um, for whatever reason, I'm like so stoked for hunting season this year, but I have
yep,
absolutely nothing planned. And, ever since starting Dialed, and I'm sure anybody that has listened to me talk before, like, with being as busy as we are and our team growing and everything, I just don't get to hunt much. And but
yeah,
I'm fine with it. You know what I mean? And it sucks because, everybody says, well, that's what you got in this industry for, and that's what you started your own business for. And it's like, well, no, that's not how that works, right?
yeah,
You know what I mean? But anyways, but yeah, for whatever reason, just like these last like 4 to 6 weeks, I've just been like, I mean, I've been researching more than I ever have, and I think part of it is I have a younger brother that's in the industry as well. He's way cooler and way more popular than me and kills a lot bigger shit than I do. So everybody likes him a lot more. But
Bringing a
he
family drama on here.
yeah, we really want to unpack that that
I'll be your
situation.
therapist for an hour, Scott. Let's talk.
Yeah, I would say a bottle of whiskey in about 5 hours should do it. But anyways, no, he's an awesome dude. But him and his family, his wife, and he's got two young daughters. But they just moved into a new house on 40 acres, and I think that's been part of it. Is now we are like deep into the weeds on getting this property set up, and he
Mhm.
killed a giant off it last year, which was just kind of a fluke deal. But now we know what the genetics are.
Mhm.
Um, so I think that's kind of what's ignited that fire again is the planning. I mean, because we're starting from scratch. Like this place has never been hunted,
Yeah.
but it's like, okay, we got to get food in there. Like, and I'm researching all this like stuff, and I think that's truly, that's what I love about hunting is that part of it. Like the actual hunting part and the harvesting of an animal and stuff like that's cool too, but I enjoy the prep stuff, like
Yeah.
setting the stage, getting all the pieces in place. So I don't know if that's what it is, but yeah, man, it's been weird because now all of a sudden I'm like, man, I should get my bow out and shoot again, but I'm like, oh, it's 30 below zero, so that's not going to happen. And I was like, my bow's probably frozen solid right now. But anyways,
Yeah.
yeah, it's I'm excited for this year. And even if, I only get to hunt, last year I think I hunted 3 days. Um, so I mean, even if that's the case again this year, like I'm really looking forward to, those couple days. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm excited for this year. And like I said, I have absolutely nothing planned other than, maybe getting out with my brother in, a couple times. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So
Yeah, I mean, 2024 was a weird year, man. Like I could unpack everything that, me and my family went through. Honestly, it was hard. It was a really hard year for us. And I remember going into the season, I had that one buck trike that I literally talked about on every single episode that I did.
mhm.
And dude, I thought I had him pegged, showing up every day. He didn't care if I was there putting food out. He'd just show up 2 minutes after I left. And then all season up until about November, I was hunting him and I only saw him once. And of course, when I saw him, I had my bow on the ground, picked it back up. He ran off. He came back in when I put my bow on the ground again because it was like really dark, right? And yeah, man. So that kind of set the tone for the rest of the season. And then my wife's grandfather passed away, and then we had to put one of our cats down. And I've never had to do that before. So it just, the end of the year was really crappy, you know?
Yeah,
And so going into 25, it's like, okay, there's all this other stuff that we have planned that, changes came. Like we just partnered up with G5 and Prime. That's huge. Partnered up with Bohning. That's huge. I mean, it's like,
that's awesome.
got to partner with Working Class. I mean, that's, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
it was one of those things where you look back and it's like, okay, last year sucked, but this year, even though it does kind of have a weird feeling to it, I'm excited. Like I'm
yeah,
doing food plots for the first time this year. We're chasing I'm just gonna say a mega giant. I'll give you the details later. But yeah, man, there's a lot of promise this year, and saying that, I want to go into what's extremely promising for you guys because I see it everywhere is this new site that y'all came out with. Now, I've been using the Arxos since last summer. And I mean, you could still see it back there on my old bow.
mhm.
And I've said it a million times. That's the best site that I've ever used. Now, I realized how much of an idiot I am because when I sighted it in, I thought that I just set it to a certain level, on vertical, and then I could change the tapes out and it would still be accurate. And that was not the case. So I had to learn that. I watched the video you guys have on how to sight it in, which was extremely helpful. And then so like I said earlier, I didn't think there was anything you could really do drastically that would change it and make it better. And then y'all come out with the proof, and I had my foot in my mouth.
Yeah.
So it's corny as it sounds, the proof is in the pudding, dude. Like it is. It's such a cool site, and the things y'all changed. I mean, can you tell everybody what's different about this site, like how you got to this and what made you guys make the changes?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, a lot of it was just out of necessity. Like you said, the Arxos was and is still a very good site for a new company that tried a lot of new stuff, right? Or tried to introduce some new features on a site that's never been done before. And it was kind of like the epitome of like the saying, you don't know what you don't know, which some people like that saying, some people don't like that saying, but it's the truth. I mean, we really didn't know what we were getting into.
Yeah.
And, you know, when designing the Arxos, we learned a ton. I mean, there's stuff that we did that I will never do again. And so, again, it was a great first product, but right out of the gates, we learned a lot, and particularly on our end, when it came to manufacturing, assembly, and just supply chain kind of in general. It was a very steep learning curve, but then, we also obviously got a lot of feedback from customers and end users, some good, some bad, right? And so, right out of right away, we knew like there was changes that we wanted to make. Again, whether it was from the production side, assembly side, or just, the usability of it. So the whole time, we kind of had this wish list of like, okay, if and when we come out with a Gen 2, what is it going to look like? What would we change? But I mean, ultimately, the easy answer to your question is, I mean, we named it the PRÜF because it's proof that we listened to feedback. A lot of the changes we made on the PRÜF were changes that we wanted to make, but majority of them were changes that were told to us by customers, whether they were people that bought the Arxos. And like you said, I mean, we heard that quite a bit. The people saying like, finally, like a site that does this, a site that does that, or like, the Arxos is the best site I've ever used. But, there was always a but attached to the, that sentence. And so that's what we listened to. And, and that's how we ended up with the PRÜF. So, I mean, overall, I mean, the PRÜF is very similar to the Arxos in the sense of how it operates, how it works, what's it actually going to do for you, the shooter. But overall, it's completely different. I mean, the body, the construction, the components, everything's different. One of the big things we really wanted to work on was the overall weight of the site. That's one thing we heard a lot about with the Arxos, is that it was kind of, cumbersome and on the heavier side, which it was. But, again, it was right there where everybody else was. But I think it was more a perception thing, because when you look at it, it looks like a solid chunk of aluminum, right? And a lot of people thought it was plastic because of the Cerakote. And so there was a lot of it was kind of just more of a perception rather than an actual like truth. But again, it's still stuff that we listen to. So I would say, like I said, a lot is different. But as far as like advantages to the PRÜF, I mean, there's not a ton, but there's enough that warranted a new site. Like probably the biggest feature and the biggest difference, and it was probably the most common feedback we got, was the fact that the Arxos didn't have a locking mechanism, which was by design. We are not fans of being able to permanently lock a dial.
Yeah.
But we learned that that's not the general consensus. Majority of people want a way to lock the dial, but so we looked for ways to where we could get what we wanted, but still give customers what they wanted. So it was kind of a win-win. But in the end, I mean, the PRÜF, it is a souped up version of the Arxos, and it's beneficial, from our end on the assembly side. But I think, from the user's perspective, it's just, we learned a ton in the last 3.5 years, and the PRÜF is proof of that.
Yeah. I mean, what is the benefit? Because I know y'all have, it's like that little button on the side that's next to the dial that's supposed to sort of lock it down. Yeah, on the Arxos. It kind of locks it down, but it sort of makes it tougher to move. What's the benefit of having a locking mechanism?
So, I mean, so that we called that the dial break on the Arxos. And that was like our way of half-ass attempting to give somebody a locking mechanism, even though it was never designed to lock.
Yeah.
It was exactly what it says. It was a break. So, both the Arxos and the PRÜF are tension driven. So,
Mhm.
um, the Arxos was 100% tension driven. So if you didn't like how we tuned the sight to have more tension, you could engage that brake and it
Mhm.
would put more pressure on the main gear. So it make it harder for the dial to move.
Yeah.
So if you were in a scenario where, you wanted more tension on your dial so it couldn't be bumped or moved or whatever, then you would engage the dial brake. And some people like that, some people didn't, and I
Yeah.
think it's one of those things where it's everybody is so used to having that locking mechanism, right? Um, so we tried to, keep away from that. But like I said, the general consensus was that's not what people liked. So
Yeah.
we included it on the PRÜF, but now with the PRÜF, we call it the switch lever. So if the switch lever is fully engaged, it locks the dial permanently like that. It
It
won't,
won't move.
but you
Gotcha.
can also adjust the tension of the dial with that lever. So if you want less tension, more
Mm.
tension. So we're killing two birds with one stone. As far as why somebody would want to lock their dial, I really don't know, other than most adjustable sights, when they're unlocked, they're very loose.
Yeah.
If you shoot, the vertical slide will move on you.
Mhm.
So, which that's a tolerance issue. That's not
Yeah.
a functionality. And with the sites being tension driven, we don't have to worry about that. But so I don't really understand the need for a locking mechanism, but again, it's not really doesn't re nobody really cares what I want. So, we're in the business of selling sites, and you gotta sell what the people want. So, we added
Yeah.
it on, but like I said, that's the big feature change. It got a facelift as far as the overall look, and a lot of that was again to try to shed weight. And
Mhm.
I still think the PRÜF is one of the lighter sites on the market. I know there's been some of our competitors that have launched some new sites that are pushing that very limited weight,
Mhm.
um, as well. So you know it's um it's definitely an upgrade, from the Arxos, but I still love the Arxos. I mean, the Arxos will always be our baby because that's what
Yeah.
Dialed was founded on. It has killed plenty of animals across the world. So I mean, it's it competes right there with everybody else. But the way, like, what we call the PRÜF, or kind of what the PRÜF has done for us, is the term we use a lot is confidence.
Mhm.
Just as a company, we have so much more confidence now because it is in our second product. And
Yeah.
now it's like, with the Arxos, you always felt like you were on the defense. Like, we always felt like we had to explain ourselves, well, this is why we did that, and you always felt like you kind of were on your back foot, right? Like, you were
Yeah.
never striking first. Where now with the PRÜF, it's like, okay, we listened, and here's what we got. And it's just a total different kind of environment for us. And we launched the PRÜF in October, and it's been just nuts since we launched. And it's been awesome because what that tells us is, one, we have some of the most loyal customers that you can get, because they were there with us day one. They gave us a try. They took a chance on us with the Arxos, and again,
Mhm.
some people liked it and some people didn't. But how many people were just sitting there waiting? And
Yeah.
I mean, we heard more than, I don't know how many times. Like, I mean, a lot. Like, I knew it. Like, I knew you guys were working on something new. I knew you guys would do it. Like, I knew, like, but I mean, to see like how many people showed up for us,
Mhm.
it was truly one of the most amazing feelings. Like, I mean, it was like launch day of the PRÜF was actually pretty nerve-wracking, because
Yeah.
we're like, did we blow our chance? We did really good, but did we blow our chance to really show people who we are,
Yeah.
Dialed as a company, but also what we can do? Because excuse me, in the beginning, there was a lot of shit talking, and like, oh, these guys are just a marketing company that, make a, half-ass site and stuff. And like, yeah, there's some truth to that. Like, we are a marketing company. Captured Creative is, that's owned by Taylor and Jordan. Like, yeah, we are a marketing company, but
Yeah.
collectively within our team, there's a lot of experience, there's a lot of knowledge, and we all have our strengths. And I think the PRÜF is like, that is the product we set out to build in the beginning. We just
Mhm.
didn't know how, right? So we had to go through the Arxos, all those challenges, all the negative and the criticism, and the keyboard warriors, all that bullshit that
Yeah.
over time it takes a toll on you. But I think what the PRÜF truly shows is, one, we listen, right? Like, we're not just in this for us, we're in this for our community.
Mhm.
But then two, just kind of who we are as a team, like, and what truly motivates us and drives us. And like I said, the PRÜF is kind of the end result to that. So we're super proud of the PRÜF. And I honestly, I mean, I stare at it every day. Our assembly team stares at it every day. Are there little things that we would tweak? Sure, because I mean, we're all perfectionists, right?
Yeah.
We always want to do things the best to our ability. And I say this all the time, but like, one of our biggest fears is disappointing people, right? Like, we never want to disappoint someone, because one, I mean, we know our stuff isn't cheap, and to spend that type of money, they're they're entrusting us with that, right? And
Yeah. There's a high expectation.
for sure. So I think we truly met that expectation with the PRÜF, and the overall response thus far has, shown that. But yeah, man, it's just a different, it's truly like the next chapter for Dialed. Like,
Yeah.
we went through the startup and the I mean, the suffering, and like, oh my God, are we actually gonna like, are we gonna make it? Like,
Yeah.
and to where now it's like, no, like, not only are we gonna make it, but this is our year to kick some serious ass. And it goes back to like what we were just talking about, the excitement for this year.
Mhm.
There's a lot of excitement within our team and our community. And I say community a lot because that is one thing that's very important to us. Like, Dialed isn't about me. It's not about Taylor. It's not about, our internal team, our external team, like guys like yourself, but collectively as a community, like, that's what Dialed is about, and
Yeah.
if, as owners, if we can make a couple bucks along the way, sweet. But at the end of the day, like, the community is who we care about. And that's why we do everything we do. And like I said, having the PRÜF now, it's, it's something that like we can be proud of now, right?
Yeah.
Whereas with the Arxos, every time like I pitched a sale at an event or somebody bought one, there was always kind of like, oh, I hope they like it. Like, I hope they like it. For now, it's like, if you don't like it, then there's something wrong with you, because
Yeah.
I mean, it truly is like, it's a fantastic site. So
Well, and it's so crazy to hear you say that you felt that way, because like I've been following you guys. I mean, you know this. I've been following along with Dialed since the very first episode y'all did with Kurt and them. And
mhm.
I've always thought that, like, dude, that's what, and you and Taylor said it perfect in the PRÜF video where you're like, we did this because everything that came before this, it was kind of bland and stale and there wasn't any sort of innovation. And I mean, you guys really have. I've noticed, I'm not going to say any brands, but I've noticed y'all's influence in a lot of competitors. And I
Oh
just
yeah.
laugh. I'm like, oh, really? I'm like, you just filled the hole? Okay. Like, it's
Yep.
just what you guys are doing did change the game. I mean, when I went to TAC last year, I had that site for maybe, God, actually, dude, it might have had to be almost a year since you've been on here, because our TAC up here in Georgia was in May. So we're creeping up on a
It
year.
was the first week, yeah, the first weekend in May. And
Yeah.
I think it's probably honestly almost a year, like, exactly. Cause I think it was like that January, February,
Yep.
March, even maybe time frame, like first quarter sometime, because we had
Yeah.
talked about meeting up at the Georgia Tech, and I
And
wasn't
then
able
you
to.
weren't there and broke my heart. It was still
Yeah,
fun.
I know.
I'm just kidding.
Like I said, for as hard as I try not to disappoint people, I'm still pretty good at it. So
Okay. It's okay. I forgave you the second you told me you couldn't go. But yeah, man, it was kind of cool going there and being able to, flaunt the site and stuff, even though that was before I really understood how to sight it in. So my 100-yard shot, I should have had it pegged out and shooting about 10 foot over the target because I just didn't have it sighted in right. But I saw a lot of people, shooting dials. And I had a lot of people come up to me when I was at the booth. Even when I went to the dialed booth, there were people walking up and saw the bow, because I had my bow with me. And they're like, oh, you got one of those too? And I'm like, yeah, dude, it's literally, if you don't have one, you need to try one out.
yeah,
And it was just cool because I kind of got to see like the infield position you guys have where people notice what you do. You know, people are definitely noticing. They've been noticing. And so it's just
Uh,
funny to hear you say that like you'd be doing a sales pitch and you're kind of just kind of like, oh, I hope you like it. And now you're just walking in, you know, dude with the biggest balls in the room, like, hey man, we got this proof. Come check it out. And it's just it's a given now, you know?
well, I think it's different because I mean, again, as as like one of the owners, I mean, like well, I'm gonna say this, but I can't really say it honestly because I
Mhm.
really don't care what people think, but I do care what people think, right? Because
When it
you
comes to
know,
business, you care.
yeah, when it comes to the business, but it's just that being new and you know, um, it's just that feeling of having to prove yourself, right?
Hmm.
And especially when we launched Dialed, we were the new kid on the block, right?
Yeah.
There really wasn't, we were kind of the excitement for that short term, and then there were other brands that launched new products. There was a lot of other exciting stuff that came after us.
Hmm.
So, you kind of you worry about that feeling of getting, pushed to the back of the line or, just being white noise in the end. So it's kind of that feeling of maintaining that relevancy. So
Hmm.
that's where like, you put a lot into this product, right? I mean, all of us have sacrificed so much for that one product. So it's just like you want everybody to like it, right? Even though you're
Yeah.
never going to please everybody and, perfection is you're never going to accomplish it, but we always strive to, right? So it's just that fear of like somebody not liking what you literally have just dedicated your whole life and like
Hmm.
sacrifice for, but also knowing that there's a lot of other good options out there, right? And
Yeah.
Taylor and I were just talking about this not long before this call. Like, anything that we do or any of us do, it's not a necessity, right? We are a commodity. We are a want, right?
Hmm.
So people do not have to spend their hard-earned money, which, I mean, we all know, like a lot of people, I mean, it's tough times, right? I mean, hopefully there's good times coming and, whatever, but, to spend $500-600 on a site is insane, right? But
Yeah.
to when if you convince somebody to let go of that money when really they should probably be spending that on stuff for their household, their kids,
Yeah.
whatever. But to convince them to want to spend that money on your products, like we take that very seriously.
Hmm.
So, and it's even like, like Kurt, like, I mean, he'll tell me all the time, like, you guys are killing it. I'm like, nah, we're really not, man. Like, we're doing good, but like, I don't know if we're killing it. But then, you go to a TAC event and you're humbled because you do see everybody walking around with your site. And I think, like, for me personally, I'm definitely the hardest critic of like us and like our team, myself, just because I've always been that way.
Yeah.
But I'm not on social media, so like
I know. It kills me.
I don't see like a lot of the positive. And
Yeah.
with me being on the sales customer service side, I only hear the negative, right? So
Really?
it's yeah, I mean, because if somebody's emailing us for customer service, it's because something went wrong, right?
True.
So
Is Taylor
I only
is
hear
Taylor
like,
never showing you this stuff though? Is he never being like, dude, check this out or anything like
yeah,
that?
oh yeah. I mean, there's definitely information sharing. So
Oh,
like
okay.
if we
Okay.
have a really good post, he'll share it with our team, group text and stuff. But for him and like everybody else, you see that every day where I just get told like, oh, this feature sucks. Like, oh, why would you design it this way? And it's you so when somebody says like, oh, you guys are killing it, I'm like, well, not from what I'm seeing, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
But then you see those little slivers of like, again, being at the TAC event, seeing people walking around, or like for me, guiding out west and seeing people come through camp with our stuff, and they have no
Yep.
clue that
Who
I'm
you are.
already dialed, but
Yeah.
see them there with one of our sites, I'm like, oh shit, like, damn, that's pretty cool,
Yeah.
and I remember I ran into a dude, God dang, it might have been Atlanta airport actually. And I was literally cruising through trying to make it to my gate, and some guy grabbed me and he's like, "You're Scott." I'm like, maybe
Yeah.
you. And he was going on a hunt someplace, but he had a dialed hat on. And he's like, "Love my site, man. Like, love it." He's like, and he like wiggled his hat. He's like, "The gear, love it all," And I was like, "Damn, that's pretty cool," to run into somebody in the middle of nowhere. So no, I mean, if I can definitely admit now, and like you brought up, what some other brands have done that, mimic some of the stuff we done. Like I think Dialed has definitely made a splash, and like our famous saying is we kick the hornet's nest, and
Mhm.
that's, if anybody knows us as like guys, I mean that's what we do. Like we like to
Yeah.
stir the pot, we like to kick the hornet's nest, but at the same time it's for the overall benefit of like the industry. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? If we didn't kick the hornet's nest, everything would have just been status quo. It would
Hmm.
have been the same regurgitated shit year after year after year. I don't want to say shit because it's shit product, but stuff,
Yeah.
but and that's just kind of always been the archery industry is, monkey see, monkey do.
Hmm.
But and I was talking to somebody about this the other day. Like you look at how much like innovation has been done in the industry in the last 10 years, and it's actually been pretty impressive, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of those ideas were ideas that have been tried before. It was just before their time. And like one of the best examples I always use is like the ozone stuff. Like
Hmm.
ozone is not new to our industry. Like that was tried going on like 15 years ago, but it was just before its time. Nobody believed in it. They thought it was a crock of crap. It was a gimmick. It was expensive.
Yeah.
Now look at it. We all use it.
Oh yeah. I have a machine in my
So
tote right now.
yeah, I mean,
Just
so
because.
it's one of it, and that's when we started Dialed. We said from day one, because I mean, when we first started Dialed, we didn't even know what we were going to do. We
Yeah.
didn't knew we wanted to do something different. We wanted to kind of stir the pot, push the envelope, and like we always say, like capitalism is a great thing. It promotes competition. Competition promotes innovation. In the end consumer is the one that wins. And if
Hmm.
you do it right, which I think if there's one thing we've done very well, it's been just sticking to our game plan, right? Like not getting caught up in what everybody else is doing. And, yeah, we pay attention, but Dialed, we're just going to do what we want to do and listen to our customers and just keep, making cool stuff. And, the people that appreciate it, like I said, you're part of the Dialed community. So
Yeah. I hope I don't sound like Dylan because I know you just did his podcast and he's with Prime, I'm with Prime, he's with y'all, I'm with y'all. Like that. The
we
thing
just
I
we,
love
we
so
we
much.
just need you to get joined Pope and Young, and then you have the trifecta.
I look, man, I was trying to avoid this conversation.
We can save it for the end.
Okay, okay. We'll cover that after this because I do actually. I'm glad you brought that up because I do want to talk about that. But what I like so much about what you guys have done, it's very similar to what Prime did, and you said something that really resonates with me is like y'all like to innovate. Okay, the archery industry has had a ton of innovation, but it is monkey see, monkey do, right? And some of the y'all's competitors, I've seen very similar things to the new site. Prime came out with that form that I'll tell you, man, I saw it before it came out and I thought it was the coolest bow that I've ever seen. It looks
I
awesome.
I didn't I honestly didn't know what to think. I was like,
See, that's what my buddy told me. He called me when he saw it and was like, dude, Prime's got this new bow. It's gonna take you a minute to get used to it. And I was like, what do you mean? And I don't know. I'm thinking like, oh, does it have major reflex? Does it have three cams? I told Brian this when he came on. I'm like, I didn't know what y'all were gonna do. And then I saw
yeah,
the photo and I was like, oh, I get it. The thing is, and I said this recently on another episode, is that because Prime did that, they've changed, in my opinion, they've changed the bow game. So now you're going to start seeing more hybrid bows come out from competing companies, which is good. I still think the way they did it is probably uh, the best way to do it based off what I know, but who knows? I mean, it drives the industry to get better, and that's what you guys did. I mean, you're right, dude. Like the old sites I used to use, if I pulled one of my old two of my old sites out right now, they're basically the same.
yeah.
And it there was changes, there was differences, but it's very similar. And one thing I do want to ask you is your opinion on this whole weight thing, because I don't feel like the site's that heavy.
I
And
mean, to me, I mean, yeah, man. To me, weight's just kind of a. I don't know. I mean, it's weight has never been a priority to me because I'm going to set a bow up the way I wanted to set it up, and I really don't care how much it weighs in the end. Because
Yeah.
I mean, one, whether you're hiking the mountains, climbing a tree stand, whatever, like, I mean, if adding, you know, 6, 8, 10 more ounces to your bow, that's really going to make or break you climbing up that hill. Maybe there's some other things you need to work on.
Put the little Debbie's down.
Yeah, yeah, maybe don't, stuff your face with so many ho-hos and not gonna lead her a Mountain Dew.
Hey, easy
But no,
now, easy now. Those are good. Okay, those are really good.
hey, I'm not
I like
knocking
me
it.
a
I mean,
thick iced honey bun in the morning. I mean, don't take
yeah,
that, Scott.
and I maintain a pretty strict diet throughout the year, but during hunting season, that's where I indulge. And my thing is
Mhm.
strawberry Pop Tarts. Like,
Oh, dude.
dude, if I see a box of Pop Tarts, it's like, I mean, it's like,
Going at it.
oh, it's a crack. I'm a crack man. Like, and that's always my first, like people always talk about their tree stand, meal plans and stuff. And,
Yeah,
you know, I think that's one thing I'm, it doesn't matter how much food I bring, it's gone by 9 a.m. Like I can bring four
yeah.
sandwiches and I'll have them gone by 9 a.m. But the first thing I always dig into is strawberry Pop Tarts. No, I'm not knocking it at all. I mean, especially, dude, when it's the rut and it's, cold and you've been grinding, like whatever you got to
Yep.
do to keep you going. But no, I mean, back to the weight thing. Yeah, I mean, I never really understood, the weight stuff when it comes to bows, as long as it's balanced, right? I don't care
Mhm.
if it's, a 3 pound bow or a 12 pound bow. As long as it's balanced, that's all I care about. But
Yeah,
again, it's not up to me, right?
yeah,
It's it's up to it. If our product is perceived as clunky and heavy, it's not going to sell, right?
yeah.
So, you know, that was a big thing. But I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, it is quite a bit lighter than the Arxos, but it's not like it's that much lighter.
Yeah,
Like you're gonna probably make up that 4 or 5 ounces with adding a couple more arrows to your quiver or
Mhm.
adding, a couple more weights to your sidebar or your front bar, right? Like that weight's gonna end up back on your bow somehow or another, but
Yeah.
at the end we got to make what the people want. So
Well, and see, I don't even like when I think of a bow and its weight. I mean, like the bear behind me, I think that bear is like 3.8 pounds, right?
mhm.
The prime form is 3.8, I think. I don't know exactly, but it's like we've kind of gone this route of lighter bows, but then you see people with 12-inch stabilizers up front and like a sidebar like I've got. And then the bow sight is not something I ever thought about that somebody would complain about weight. I mean,
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
crazy to me.
to me, like the only really complaint like I would have is again when it comes to the balance.
Yeah,
Like you have a really heavy sight that's extended off your bow. That's a lot of weight that's pulling down on the front of the bow.
true,
But
true.
then, you add a sidebar or back bar and throw a bunch of weight,
Balances
which
out.
I like to do anyways. And I don't know like what that threshold is, what's considered heavy, but
Yeah,
again, if we can make the site as light as possible and people want to make their bow heavier, they can add weight however they want. But at least we can say that you know our site is as light as we can make it without sacrificing integrity. So
true.
and that
So
and that's the flip side, right? I mean, there's some of the and again, I'm not going to name names, but some of the brands that have said, "Oh, we have the lightest site on the market." Well, if you actually look at it, it's like, man, would that really hold up? Like,
yeah,
scenario, but that's not for us to judge.
yeah. I mean, that's the route they went. One thing I do want to kind of dive into before we talk about the Pope and Young stuff is what are some of the key features on the proof? Because there's some things that was on the Arxos that I tried dabbling with, and I think would probably be the only thing I should have called you about it, but I just I didn't think I was going to be using it, and it wasn't a big deal to me. But like those little indicator pins,
Hmm.
um, I did struggle with those to try and set it to where my second pin was at.
Right.
But what I noticed you now have, what is it, 3 or 4 pins, and you've also got 2 switch tapes on there.
Yep. Yep. So, again, that was a design that is great in concept. I'll admit we kind of missed the mark as far as that actual component.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't quite work out as we had it drawn out or planned in our heads. So again, enter version 2 on the proof. Um, but so the whole point of kind of the design of the Arxos and the proof was a minimalistic design, but you know it was a sight that we can give somebody and be like, you're going to notice a difference with it, right?
Mhm.
And one of the most proprietary key features is the angled elevation rail, right?
Yeah.
Where every other adjustable sight is perpendicular, ours is at an angle.
Yeah, it's like a rifle scope, which I thought was ridiculously cool.
Yeah.
Just
So, with the
the
rail
aesthetics
at an
of it.
angle, now we can extend your range without you having to change your setup.
Mhm.
But we also wanted to try to accomplish to where you could cover the most distance without ever having to adjust your sight. So that's where the multi indicators come in. So if you have, a 3-pin vertical stack, which is what we started with, and now we have 3 and 5 pin horizontal on the proof, at dead stop or at 0 on your dial, those pins are fixed, right? So you
Mhm.
have a fixed range of yardages that you can shoot without ever touching your sight, right?
Oh,
But
so they're
what
not
happens when
adjustable.
no, so I mean, you never have to adjust your sight if you don't want to. You can just shoot your 20, 30, 40 or 20, 50, however you have the pins set or
Okay.
whatever. But it's what happens when you adjust the sight, then what? And that's like a big thing. This goes to the argument of what's better, three pin vertical versus 3-pin horizontal.
Yeah.
And a lot of people told us they don't like the 3-pin vertical because they can't adjust their pins. And I get that because on a 3-pin horizontal, you can set your pin gap to whatever you want. And a lot
Yeah.
of people like that 20, 30, 40 split, which to me doesn't make any sense because with bows nowadays, your 20, 30, 40 are like
Yeah.
next to each other. But
Yeah.
what a lot of people don't realize is like, okay, so you're going to set that 20, 30, 40 while your dial's at dead stop. But as soon as you change that dial, those gappings change, right?
100%.
Whether it's on our site or anybody else's site. But the advantage to our site is because of that angled rail, your gapping change is minimal because as
Okay.
the scope housing or as the rail gets lower in the frame as you're adjusting the scope housing gets closer to your eye, which raises your impact point. So your yardage marks actually come closer together.
Hmm.
So with a conventional vertical pin or a vertical elevation rail, the further you go out, so 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, the further your marks get apart. So if
Mhm.
you have 3 pins and you're rotating the dial, your gapping between your 3 pins gets excessively larger. Where with
Huh.
ours, it'll maintain a more consistent gapping from start to finish because of that angled rail. But with the multi-indicator needles, or like now we use rings, when you set those to your other pins, no matter where you adjust that dial, you always know what your pins are set at. So
Okay.
the best way to explain it is like in a hunting scenario, right? So let's say you're using our 3H, which is the 3-pin horizontal.
Mhm.
And at dead stop, I set my 3 pins to 20, 30, 40. And, I'm in a hunting scenario. And, obviously the most ideal setup is you're going to range the exact distance, rotate the dial to that exact yardage, and then shoot with your top pin, right?
Mhm.
But it doesn't always work out that way. So let's say we're going to shoot a deer at 47 yards. I have my dial dialed to 47 yards. I'm going to shoot him with my top pin. But now all of a sudden, the doe he was chasing bumps back to 60 yards. And I either have to make an adjustment again to 60 and use my top pin, or I can look at my multi indicator needles and be like, 60 yards is my second pin. I'm going to shoot
Mhm.
my second pin, or it's gapped between my first and second pin, right? So
Yeah.
you always have a reference. You're never guessing, right?
Huh.
Um, and in the past, when it came to a multi-pin horizontal, and there's still going to be people that run it this way, but you always had to use your bottom pin as your aimer because that's how you got more range because you're using the bottom pin. But now with the proof and the Arxos and that angled rail, you can use your top pin as your mover, which is more natural. So you can kind of shoot it more like a single pin for further distances
Mhm.
because we can get you more range out of your setup with the angled rail.
Hmm.
So there's a lot like there's not really a wrong way to set up one of our sites. There's just a right way.
It's the only way.
No, I mean, there
Yeah.
really isn't, because I mean, especially when you get into the multiple pins, I mean, man, I can think of 20 different ways you could set it up. And, like my good buddy Evan from Hoyt, I mean, he explained to me how he's going to set up his 4-pin proof. And I'm like, that makes zero sense to me, but as long as it makes sense to you, you have at it, bud. Um,
Yeah.
and going back to like Prime, BA's a homie of ours. I freaking love that dude.
Mhm.
If he ever, I mean, he could tell some stories. So like, I always have to be really nice to him, and because he could tell some stories about me from back in the day that probably shouldn't be exposed. But
Well, I am gonna call him tomorrow while I'm at work and be like, "Hey, man, I was just talking with
well,
Scott last
he's
night."
he's guilty by association, so that's why he
Oh, that
can't.
makes it even better.
No, we had a lot of fun back in our younger years together when we both
Yeah.
were in the industry. But no, great group. But yeah, talking about their forum, and I told BA, we talked just a couple weeks ago, and I said I got to hand it to you guys. I mean, I haven't shot the forum yet. We have one at the shop,
Mhm.
but I said I am so intrigued, and I said you guys get my applaud because you did something different, and
Yeah.
you're taking your own route to a carbon riser design rather than just coming out with a straight carbon riser. You took a different approach to it, and you have your own story to tell, and that's
Mhm.
that's what's going to make you guys successful, right?
Oh yeah.
And again, going back to us, that's just how we've always looked at Dialed, and how we always will look at Dialed is we're just going to do our own thing. And if you like it, welcome to the Dialed community. If you don't like it, maybe we'll win you over down the road. But again, going back to the proof, again, the proof was named the proof because it's proof that we listen to feedback, and just based on the last 5 months, like a lot of people seem to appreciated the changes we made. So
So let me ask you this: is there any plans or designs to come out with a sticker that says "the proof is in the pudding"?
you never know. I mean, we
Okay,
do.
because I would totally rock that. I'd give my daughter that sticker, and she would lose
I
her
mean,
mind.
on the Arxos, we made a donut dial. So I mean,
That's
that's
true. That's
kind of right up
true.
our alley. But no, I mean, you never know what we're gonna do.
Yeah, I had to ask you because it popped in my head. I mean, I do got to say, man,
We
like,
could, I mean, for like the TAC events, maybe that's what we should do, is just have dialed pudding that we hand out as, little.
dude, yeah, I'm planning to be in Nashville. I'll start handing it out. I'll just
Yeah.
run up to people like, "Hey, you want some dial pudding?"
Yeah. But you have to do the Bill Cosby in impersonation while you do it, though. Like,
What? You're like, you want the pudding from the dial like that?
yeah, minus the whole sexual harassment stuff.
Okay, well, yeah, I definitely don't.
We
I don't
don't
want to be
need that
involved in
riding
anything.
on us, but no, you definitely have to do the voice for sure.
I'll do the voice. I don't want to be involved in any sort of lawsuit or cases or anything like that. I'm gonna try to be a man of God.
Dial doesn't pay for lawsuits against us.
Yeah. You'll have to pay for my bail. That's the only thing I
I mean,
ask.
that we can discuss, but
Okay.
that's dependent on why you're in that position in the first place.
Oh man. No, so all right, just to be clear, the horizontal scope, the pins are adjustable or they're not? Oh, they
Yeah.
are. Okay, so I misunderstood what you said earlier then. Because the thing I've liked, because before I shot the Arxos, all my sights had just one pin.
Right.
They were all vertical post. I had one that was like an A post. It was different, but I shooting the Arxos now with the 2-pin design, I got to do it at TAC. I did it at our second annual bow shoot last year. I got to reach out to quite some distances, and using that second pin was a breeze, honestly. And I had what was interesting, and maybe I was wrong. I do want to ask you about it. So I have my bow sighted in, and still is the same way right now. But with the bow sighted in on the top pin at dead 20, the second pin I think was
Probably
40.
right around, right. It's probably between 35 and like 40, someplace in there.
Yeah, I want to say it was like 47, 49, something like that.
For your second pin?
Yeah, I was shooting a little bit heavier of an arrow when I first sighted it in, and then I haven't even needed it because in Georgia we're 20 yards and in basically.
Right.
So the last time I used it, I was still playing with some arrow setups and changing a couple things, and yeah, it was like between 45 and 49. It did change some, but
For your second pin or third pin?
second pin, because I've only got the 2 pin.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, okay. I
Yeah.
missed that part of it. So your second pin is the lower pin. Okay, got it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's right. I mean,
Okay.
so that was with the vertical pin design, which again that's all we offered on the Arxos.
Mhm.
You know, and this kind of goes back to like again a comparison or like an argument, I guess, that I have, because I'm a vertical pin,
Yeah.
shooter, but I mean I shot single pins majority of my life. So I like the vertical pin system. I don't like horizontal pins. I think it's a cluttered scope housing, and there's other, scientific reasons. But yeah, so on the vertical pin, if you ran the 2 pin, it was like a 20 and 45 or a 20 and 50, depending on your setup.
Yeah.
And on the 3 pin vertical, it was like a 20, 35, 45 split. And obviously, depending on your setup, those ranges varied.
Yeah.
But so in the end, again, it wasn't an exact like it wasn't exact like 10-yard gap between them or a 15-yard gap between them. But like my argument is, does it really matter what the gapping is between the pins as long as you know it, right?
Yeah.
And again, that's where those multi-indicator needles or the multi-indicator rings come in. Like, does it matter if it's a 20, 30, 40 split or a 20, 35, 45 split? Like, does it really matter? Just as long as you know what the pins are set at,
Yeah.
that's really all that matters, right? And again, as soon as you rotate the dial, those gappings change. So
Mhm.
for the horizontal pin users, you're setting this gap that you like, but that's only valid when the dial is set at 0,
Yeah.
right? So, but at the end of the day, it's whatever people are comfortable with and are most confident in, and that's why on the PRÜF we offered it all. So.
Yeah, I mean, basically, you guys took the Arxos and improved everything from what
Yeah.
I've seen.
Yeah.
Dude, I love it. I love that site. I'm a huge fan of whatever it is you guys do. I'm a little bit biased. I have a buddy of mine that he loves to give me crap about everything, right? Like when I was in Colorado, he texted me and was like, "Hey man, you need to come do this." I'm like, "I'm out of state. I can't." It was like a Thursday night. He's like, "Come to the shoot." I'm like, "Dude, I'm about 1,200 miles away, maybe further. Don't think I'm gonna make it." He's like, "Oh, what are you doing up there? Playing with your rich family?" I'm like, "Dude, come on." It's like it was a birthday present, okay? The same thing happened when we did the bow shoot last year, and I whipped the Arxos out, and he's like, "Oh, big money with his fancy little donut site." And I'm like, "Hey, look, have you shot one of these yet?" And he goes, "No, man, I'm not going to spend 600 on." And I told him, I'm like, "Look, dude, I know they're expensive, but you get what you pay for."
Yeah.
Like this is, I'll tell you a quick story about tack. And I told him the same thing. When I went, it had just rained, and I didn't realize that Georgia had this deep of mountains. Okay.
Mhm.
I've been in the mountains many times. Never in my life have I had to climb up so many when we went to tack. They told us it was the easy course, and they straight up lied. So we go over this creek, and the way that they had it set up is the course went over this creek that's probably about maybe 4.5 to 5 foot bank to bank distance. I'm 5'8". Okay. I haven't played basketball in 10, 15 years. And my jumping skills, as you know, white men can't really jump. My skills went way down. So
Yeah.
I go to jump over this, and I slip because I didn't know it was going to rain. So I'm wearing regular shoes, and I slip and I land on my bow with the scope in the ground.
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay, that was 180 pounds that just went down on this site. Something's got to be messed up, right? Just you instantly think that.
Mhm.
Nothing was wrong with it. Not a single thing. It was impact resistant. It was great. And so I told him that story. I was like, you really need to get one of these sites, dude. Just go to the shop and test one. Just try it out. And he went, and he now is telling me that he's wanting to get a dialed. And I'm like, well, get the PRÜF or get the Arxos, either one. But I don't want him to complain about something. And he's one of those dudes that complains about everything. So I was like, just go with the PRÜF. You won't be disappointed. And so as far as I know, he's planning on getting one. But yeah, man, I mean, I'm sure you hear stories like that all the time. People using the sites and, saying that, oh, it's the best. And then they actually put it through the ringer and realize that it really will handle what it needs to handle. And I've had sites break on me. Like I had a micro adjust site a couple of years ago that, I think it was my first one actually. And I was adjusting in the yard. And next thing you know, I turn the clicker and all the bearings fall out.
Right.
I haven't even done anything to this. Never had a problem with it. So whatever you guys are doing, keep doing it is all I can say.
Well, and that was, I mean, we've heard, I don't know how many stories similar to that of, people wiping out or, we had, had one dude that sent his site in because, I forget the exact story, but like his wife ran his bow over in the yard or something like that. Anyways, but,
Man.
and we do get a lot of sites sent to us because of accidents or, something happens or like, can you just look this over? Like, I'm sure I messed it up. And, if so, like I'll pay for the replacement parts or whatever. And like,
Mhm.
we'll look it over. Like we do what, our thing where, we retune the sites and, all that stuff. And we're like, nah, man, you're good to go. Like, we had to straighten out your second and third axis a little bit, but no, everything's good. Like, we've retuned it. You're live to die another day. I mean, the site was built for hunters. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it was built to withstand the brutal conditions that hunters. I mean, like the Arxos particularly, because I mean, it's been out longer than proof. But I mean, like we've had people from, I mean, Greenland to the salt flats of Maryland to Alaska to, I mean, Africa, Australia. I mean, all places around the world, and it was built to take a beating.
Mhm.
Granted, it's not bulletproof, but we try to make it as bulletproof as possible, and that just flowed into the proof as well. And one of the big things of the design of the Arxos was minimalistic, right? Like when
Mhm.
you looked at a lot of sites out there, there's just so many parts, and even as somebody that like grew up working on bows, I mean, there's some sites where I'm even like, I don't know
Yeah.
what
What
the
do I
hell's
do
going
here?
on here, and I don't know what screws to touch, not touch, whatever. Where with the proof and the Arxos, it's like if there's any exposed hardware, that's meant for you to adjust. If it's not
Hmm.
exposed, it means you don't touch it, right? And even now on the proof, with which was part of the weight shaving or weight savings, initiative, was we even we minimalized that design even further. So like we pulled even more components out of the proof compared to the Arxos. So again, it was we say it's designed by hunters for hunters, even though us as hunters, like I mean, we do a 20th of some of the stuff that some of these other guys do, on their
Yeah.
sheep hunts and all that stuff. But I mean, our I would put any site up against ours as far as the durability, and that was one thing in the very beginning, with the cost that we got burned was, because I think at that point we were retailing between 500 and 525
Hmm.
for the Arxos, and everybody's like, there's no way this site is worth that, blah, blah, blah. And it's like anybody that knows anything about American manufacturing and American machining is, I mean, it's so expensive, but we don't deter from that because being made in America by American and American suppliers, those are Americans that are getting paid, right?
Hmm.
Those are American wages that are getting paid towards people. And then, same with us. Like, I mean, we're paying our people to assembly it, warranty it, and there's an expense that comes to that, right? And we do take care of our team because they're our bloodline and we want them to take pride in what they do and the company they work for. But, you know, at the same time, we do everything we can to provide additional value too, right? So when you're paying, like now the proof, it's slightly more expensive. But when you're paying that money, you're not just buying a site, right?
Yeah.
Like you're buying well, I don't want to say you're buying us, but you're buying us as like your service people, right? So
Hmm.
like if you have anything that happens, you're talking to me or Isaiah, right?
Yeah.
Or Taylor on social media. And we like our warranty is, I mean, we pride ourselves on our warranty. Like if something's wrong, we'll fix it. If whether it's user error or manufacturer defect, we fix it, right?
Yeah.
And we have a thing where at the end of the season, send your site in, we'll look it over, we'll retune it. Like again, we understand that money is it's we all work very hard for it, and we don't take that lightly. So anything we can do to, like I said, provide additional value, I mean, we want to make sure we take care of people. So you know
Yeah. I mean, I've heard, because I haven't had to, call customer service or anything. I've had no issues, but I have heard from people that have called y'all's customer service that it's like the best by far. I
I mean,
mean,
we
it's
try. I mean, we truly prioritize customer service over anything. I mean, obviously, building and designing quality high-end products is right up there, but taking care of people is our biggest priority. And like I said, the last thing we ever want to do is disappoint someone or
Yeah.
have buyer's remorse because they spent their hard-earned money with us. But
Mm-hmm.
obviously, I mean, we're limited on stuff we can do, especially now. Like we get people that bought an Arxos 2 years ago that want to trade it in straight up for our PRÜF. And it's like, man, I would love to do that, but I mean, that's not how we survive,
Yeah.
I mean, we do everything we can within our power, but and at the end of the day, it's, we do the best we can. So
Yeah, I mean, it's just rare these days. Like I feel extremely blessed that everyone I work with, their customer service is amazing, and they're basic. I'm not gonna say all family owned, but it's all personally owned, Like I could call you and be like, hey man, I got this question about this. I don't have to send an email to, 5 different people and be like, hey, can I talk to Scott? And then they, email back. And it's like, well, his availability. It's like, nah, dude, I'll text you at 6 o'clock in the evening or 12 o'clock at night. And I know that even if you're asleep, I'm going to hear back from you,
yeah.
And it's just rare. Like there's a genuineness to it that you don't see across the board.
Yeah. And I mean, I will say, like, I mean, that's that's a service that's not open to everybody. But
I know. I know
but no, I mean, whether it's myself, Taylor, Isaiah, our whole team, I mean, like I said, we do whatever we can to take care of people. And I mean, there's more people that probably have my cell phone number that I care to, but I mean, like I said, we want to get people taken care of. But I've also recognized and realized, like, I've gotten really bad at responding to people because we are just so busy, and we're all wearing so many hats. And it's easy to say, well, just hire more people, and it's like, yeah, we'd love to, but we're just a couple dudes that are doing this all on our own. So we have restrictions. But as we grow and our team grows, like we'll always maintain that interaction. Like you may text me, or like somebody I meet at a tech event and be like, hey man, here's my business card. If you have any issues, shoot me a text, call me, right?
Mm-hmm.
You may text me, and like you said, it may be, I've tried to, my life revolves around Dialed. Like everything I do, it revolves around Dialed. And but I've tried to get better about having like evenings to where I can just decompress and have my me time.
Which you need. That's extremely important.
Well, it's just, man, I mean, you have to, otherwise you're gonna kill yourself, and nobody's gonna want to deal with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
But so if somebody texts me at like 7:30, is like, hey man, I'm having issues with this, getting my site cited in, blah blah blah. Like I may not respond to you that night. I may not respond to you that morning, but I will respond to you, or I will call you. I'll be like, hey man, sorry, I'm just getting back to you. Like it's been a crazy couple days, whatever. So that's one thing that I've definitely have recognized I've kind of gotten bad at, but it's not because I'm just blatantly ignoring people. It's just, man, like we are busy and we are a small team, and I mean, Taylor's the same way with how much he gets bombarded, on social media. And, this is part of the reason why I don't have social media, is because, if people can't get a hold of him on the Dialed page, they're getting a hold of him on his personal page. And it's like, man, like, where do you draw the line, right? Like there's customer service, and then there's like, okay, like we got to kind of put a lid on this, because, we have to have our me times, right? But I mean, again, I still go back to like, we will always respond and get back to people and take care of them. And that's just going back to kind of how things have been going. Like, I mean, it's been busy. Our team has grown. We're actively looking for more team members. So, I mean, it's, things are heading in the right direction, but now it's like, we're recognizing with growth comes growing pains, and we got to correct these growing pains. Otherwise it's going to be a huge, growth hindrance, and quality of customer service is going to suffer, and that's not happening. So, we are taking steps to where, we'll never let the quality of our customer service slide, but it does take some effort on our end, and we're actively working on it.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, there's a good balance. Like obviously if I have a reason to text you at midnight, I don't something has to be going on because I'm never going to do that. Right. Like I understand it. I know how busy you are. I do my best not to blow people's phones up as much as I can, even though I could be sitting at work bored and be like, I wonder what Scott's up to. Hey, Scott, tell me some drama, just hit me with something. Right. But I don't do that because it's like you're trying to run a business. You're trying to do your thing. I'm not going to encroach on that.
I mean, I will say though, like, because I don't want anybody like listening to this that has texted me and been like, oh, I feel so bad for like, it's not like that.
Oh,
like,
yeah. That's not what I'm getting
out
at.
to me. Like, I get excited when like customers reach out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But there is a balance you have to have because, Dialed is your baby. It is your life, right? But you also have a life outside of that. So all I was saying is that
small one.
But you still have one.
Small. It's very small and very boring. But again, that's the other thing. I told somebody, I was like, that's why I don't have social media because like I don't have anything to like show.
Yeah, all you're gonna be posting is photos of you in the shop with the sites anyway, which they already do on Dialed. So
like, I don't kill big stuff, so it's not like I have really, so I don't know. You want to see like the new pair of jeans I bought? Like, cool.
Some people would enjoy that. I mean, I maybe would share it. I don't know. I'd have to see the jeans first.
Got them from Walmart.
There you go.
But no, I mean, like I said, like I don't want to make it sound like we're like, oh God, like we're getting bugged by.
No,
customers.
yeah.
No, I mean I love it, and I love one of my favorite things about Dialed is the interactions I've had with our customers, and like we're coming up on tax season, right? Like. And that thought scares the living shit out of me because I'm like, I'm about to be on the road for 13 weeks straight. And it's like, oh, damn, like there goes my summer. But at the same time, the tax that's where I feel like I have the biggest impact, because as I've gotten older, the one thing I've realized is like, I truly enjoy helping people. And whether that's, somebody just getting into archery, somebody going on their first elk hunt out west, which, I'm by no means a Western hunting expert, by any means, but any way I can help, I'm always willing, and like, like some of our shop guys like give me shit because I'm notorious for like, especially with the Arxos, if somebody had an issue and I couldn't solve it over the phone, I'd drive 4 hours to meet up with them and it'd be a 20-minute fix. But if it meant that we got them back up and running and they enjoyed their experience with our product, that was well worth the 8-hour round trip. Like, I think I did that. I've done that probably a half a dozen times in the last year because I just want to take care of them. And there wasn't enough time for them to send their site to us. So I just went to them and met them at their local range. Right.
Yeah.
So, but
and that's what's important though.
I don't want to deter people from ever reaching out to us because that's what, that is our jobs, right? But like I said, that's the beauty of the TAC events is I can talk to people, I can teach them, about our products or just anything. Like I am not a desk jockey. Like sitting at my desk on my computer, like
you go crazy.
Like I like being outside. I like, being in the elements. And like I said, having somebody in our booth and connecting with them one-on-one and being like, yeah, man, like if you have any questions after this, give me a call. Like I truly mean that, you know what I mean? And again, if it's midnight and you give me a call and I don't answer, it's nothing personal. I will get back to you when I can, and we will get you taken care of,
And that's the most important thing. And that's why I say y'all's customer service is unparalleled because who else is going to drive 4 hours to fix a 20-minute fix, And like, I know that. And I guess what I was trying to basically say is that you've got Dialed and you've got your life, but because Dialed is what it is and it's so important to you that if somebody like myself were to text you at 12 a.m., which is already, in my opinion, like, I'm not going to do that to you. But let's just say I did. I know that you're not going to respond then, but I know eventually I'm going to hear back. And that's the biggest thing because some other companies, they're not like that.
I think the biggest worry is if you were to call or text me at midnight and I respond, that would be the bigger concern because I'm not a night owl. Like I'm in bed by 8:30, 9 o'clock guy. So if I'm up at midnight, it's either one hell of a good time or like I've officially lost my shit and I'm
we'll see you on CNN News the next morning.
Streaking naked through Walmart at 1 a.m. or something, like that's definitely a possibility. So But
That's
no, it's
funny.
yeah, it's like I said, I think that's you know, talking just dialed and in proof and you know, I think that's like one of my biggest motivators is, like I said, the dial community and
Mhm.
being there for them and, again, helping any way we can, like, yeah, we're a site manufacturer. But it's amazing how many calls we have where it's just general bow teching calls, right? Like somebody's have an issue tuning their bow and we're like, well, did you try this, this, and this? And like, oh shit, like, yeah, that fixed it,
Yeah.
that's what we're here for. And like I said, we're a company that makes, a pretty badass site, but in the end, we just want to help people. And, if they buy a site from us, great. If not, hopefully they remember us, down the road and we see them at a TAC event, be like, oh yeah, you helped me with that one issue. Be like, oh yeah, right on, man. How's it going? Here's some pudding. Like, but, anyway.
I'm gonna be so disappointed if I go to Nashville Tack and there's no pudding. I'm just like, I might bring some myself. Like, here you go, Scott. Just slap the dialed sticker on there. Let's run these.
Yeah.
No, but I mean that is a big thing. Like for me, is how certain companies treat the customers, and I've said it before, dude. If somebody reaches out and is like, "Hey, what site should I get?" I instantly send them to you guys, and their reaction's always the same. It's always, "God, dude, what, $500-600?" I'm like, I know, but it's worth it. You're
Yeah.
going to get your money's worth out of this.
Well,
And
and we, like I said, when we started Dialed, we did not start a company or design a product that was for the masses, right? And
yeah,
we knew that it was going to be a small niche market that would be willing to spend, that type of money. Obviously, that market has grown as, more brands have gotten into it, but
mhm,
that's a good thing, right? As long as the quality meets the expectations of spending that money, it's a good thing, right? I
yeah,
mean,
you can justify it.
it's more money back into our industry, which, it needs. And, again, it's, you're not just paying for a product, like you're paying for the product and the service.
Yeah,
And like I said, we don't, if you're team dialed and you're part of the dialed community, I mean, like I said, we don't take that lightly. We joke around like being part of the dialed team or being part of the dialed community is like being like part of Sons of Anarchy. Like once
yep,
once you put the patch on, there's only one way it's coming off, and that's us taking it off, right? Like
yep.
carving the Yellowstone, brand off. Like it's not quite that like
Flying down here to Atlanta and
that
just taking his
dramatic, but
hat and ripping it off.
yeah.
You're
Uh,
done.
uh, but no, I mean we take it pretty seriously, and like I said, I think that's been one of the coolest part about Dialed is, again, it goes back to the comments of like, oh man, you guys are killing it, and stuff. And when you actually do look at the community we built, it's pretty damn impressive, and it truly is like an honor to have people supporting us. And
Mhm.
I could go on and on and on about how much it means to us, and especially Taylor and Jordan, and I mean myself and our whole team, but even like our manufacturing partners, like hearing it from them, it's it makes the bad days and the tough days not as tough. And like I said, it fires us up, and you know, it just makes us want to be here for those people even more.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Well, before we wrap this up, Scott, let's talk Pope and Young, man.
Yeah.
So I feel like I saw some things about Pope and Young changing some antler requirements for non-typical, but what's been going on with Pope and Young?
Man, this is going to be super embarrassing for me because as a board member, I should know all of what's going on with Pope and Young, but I have the memory of like a 90-year-old man, so I don't remember much. But there's been a lot of advancements, for Pope and Young. Uh, now they're one of the biggest ones I would say recently here is the introduction to a velvet category for the record books, which that
Mm,
wasn't a thing before. So now
okay.
if you shoot a velvet animal, there's a record book for that. They did drop the minimums on I'm trying to think.
It's non-typical, wasn't it?
No, I'm trying to remember. I should know, but yeah. Anyways, it's one of the big initiatives for the club is just to always be um, is to always be advancing while
Mhm.
still maintaining the bow hunting heritage, right?
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, that's been a one thing I've struggled with just with Pope and Young since I was a kid is, to me, I the record books to me aren't a priority, right? That's not why I hunt. That's not why I
Yeah.
shoot things. We all score our animals, right?
Mhm.
And we all use the Pope and Young score. But whether you enter your animals in the record book or not, I don't care.
Yeah.
As long as you're hunting fair chase, you're hunting ethically, that's truly what matters to Pope and Young, and they are the ones that try to hold those standards, right?
Mhm.
And like Dylan and I had this conversation talking about technology and innovation, right? Technology has played such a huge role in hunting, whether it's, Onyx or, Garmin sights and,
Yeah.
whatever.
Cell
Like,
cameras.
it's yeah, cell cams, there's just a lot of technology that's entering our industry and it's all great because if it means that we increase our participation, we keep people participating longer, that's a win all around, right?
Yeah.
But there's also has to be some restrictions to where, like, it's still ethical hunting. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And the animals still have the advantage, which, I mean, let's be honest, like any animal we hunt, they will always have the advantage because they're going into their bedroom, right?
Mhm.
Like, and you're chasing, an animal that they're literally every second of every day of their life is survival, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're always going to have the upper hand, but it's at what point have we gone too far to where you're taking the hunt and the woodsmanship out of hunting?
Yeah.
That's where I think Pope and Young has kind of opened my eyes to that is like, man, some of this stuff is getting pretty ridiculous to where like whatever happened to just being a good hunter or being a good,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And like learning more about the animals that you're chasing and stuff. So, there's a lot of, stigma and kind of criticism of the club, but in the end, Pope and Young, they fight for the rights of bow hunters. They are the gatekeepers to our bow hunting heritage. And if you actually read about like the history of Pope and Young and, how the club was formed, it really doesn't have anything to do with like the record books, right? The
Yeah.
record books were just a byproduct of that, but there's also, the record books do get put to good use when it comes to conservation, right? Like, if you're going to go and try to harvest a 200-inch whitetail, what better place to look than the record books where there's the record of any 200-inch deer that's been entered, where
Mhm.
they were harvested, the dates they were harvested, you know what I mean? So it's a database, right? So, like with any organization, there's always frustrations, but at the end of the day, like, I mean, I've said this more, you know, recently and on, I said it with Dylan, like, if you're not part of an organization that's fighting for our rights as hunters, you might as well join the enemy because
Yeah.
you're not helping our cause and you have no grants to stand on to complain, right? And especially for like Pope and Young, I mean, obviously Pope and Young is archery focused, but we do work with other nonprofits, other conservation groups. So it's a collective effort. But in the end, like, yeah, I mean, they are the ones looking out for our rights as bow hunters. But for $45 a year, it's a general membership.
Oh,
$45
that's what it is.
a year, right? Like,
Huh. I
I
thought it was
mean,
more than that.
no, general membership is $45 a year.
Well,
That
I will be joining this
$45,
weekend.
I mean, that $45, it doesn't seem like a lot, but
Yeah.
it makes a difference. And, for me, like my position on the board, like I do represent the general membership. And, the general membership is the largest portion of our membership base. But what a lot of people don't realize is like the general membership is a great way to just get involved and learn more about the club.
Mhm.
But really, if you upgrade to a regular member, that's ideally where you want to be because then you get voting rights, right? And now you have
Okay.
a bigger voice within the club, right? So if you don't like the decisions the club is making, now you can get more involved, right? And that's what the club needs is we need more involvement, we need more outside perspective, we need more feedback, more creative ideas of how, we keep bow hunters interested in bow hunting? How do we get younger generations involved? Like, I mean, it's all part of all this, So, um, yeah, I mean, it's like I said, I mean, it's, maybe Pope and Young isn't for everybody, but there's a lot of other organizations that, again, for a minimal annual fee, like if you're not part of any of them, I mean, I don't have much to say because
Yeah.
you're not part of the fight. You're not helping any of us.
See, I thought it was more than 45 a month, which is mainly the reason why, or not a month, sorry, a year. Mainly the reason why, because I'm always having to save up for stuff that I'd never had joined it. But since it's that low, I mean, shoot, I'm signing up this weekend, dude.
Yeah,
There
well,
is
and
one
again,
thing.
that's for a general membership. As you
Yeah.
increase your level of involvement, it does like a lifetime membership. I think is $1,500, which means you're a lifetime member.
Yeah.
You
But that's
know,
a one-time thing, right?
right?
Okay. See, that makes sense. I mean, especially I'm going to be 30 in a month, like $1,500, 30 years from now. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not really that much if you consider how much time that is.
Right.
One thing I do want to ask you is I'm not gonna say I have a gripe with Pope and Young. I don't, but I do have one thing I've wanted to talk to somebody about for a long time, and I've mentioned it on the podcast a lot. And just nobody has been on that I could talk about this with.
Mm-hmm.
The scoring stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The gripe that I have is and this is just an opinion, but nets are for fishing.
Yep.
So
I knew that was coming.
Yeah, I just don't. It bothers me when I see a buck, and I haven't dealt with this myself, right? But eventually, hopefully, God willing, I will. When I see a buck that gross, and it's hypothetical, but gross is like, I don't know, non-typical 220.
Mm-hmm.
But then net, it's like in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, why take away from that? Why take away from the gross size?
I'll be honest, that's something that I've like struggled with too, because to me and to a lot of people, it's almost like devaluing the animal.
It is because
like,
you say, "Oh, I shot a 200." You show them the paperwork and it says 187 or something. It's like, well, that's not what this says. And it's like, no, look above it. It says gross.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, because I'm not an official measurer. I've kind of purposely kept myself like out of like the record books and the scoring and stuff because it's just not an interest to me. Like learning how to score is very interesting to me. Learning how to score animals the right way, even for the gross measurement, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's important, right? And I think that's something that the club could maybe do a little bit better on. Is like we do hold measuring courses across the country, but to take the measuring course, you have to become a official measurer. Well, I want to take the course, but I don't want to be an official measurer. I don't want people on me being like, "Hey, I shot a black bear in Canada. Can you measure it?" Or like, "Hey, I shot this 180-inch buck," and then I measure it. I'm like, "Yeah, dude, actually, it's only 150." No, like dream crushers, right? But to your point, I really don't know the exact answer to that, other than it's the only way to keep like a level playing field, right? So like if you have somebody that kills, this tight racked, just gnarly, like, cactus of a rack, right? And it's got all these little sticker points everywhere, blah, and there's not really like you can't even tell where the main beam is. Like it's just a mess, right?
Yeah.
Like obviously that deer is going to score way better than a typical 10-pointer.
Yeah.
And so it's a way to kind of, like I said, level the playing field across all species. But again, it's not a perfect system. So and like that's why even in the record books they print the gross and the net score. Okay. But your record standing goes off of net. So
and this is just pure opinion based thought. I'm not saying like, hey Scott, you have to do this, but I feel like if making the playing field level and all of that, it kind of, I don't know how.
Like in a way, it's almost kind of like an Aryan Nation type of mentality. Like we only want perfect racks. Like, blonde hair, blue eyes. That's all we want. We only want perfect, typical.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like a participation trophy scenario in a sense, because it's like all right, look, in Georgia, we don't get 260-inch deer. Okay.
Mhm.
So I'm never going to go out there thinking, oh, well, Johnny over in Idaho shot a 260 or wherever. Why can't I have that? His score should be deducted because I want it. Like, I feel like it's kind of making hunters feel better about their situation, maybe. Maybe I'm reading it wrong, but it's just,
Yeah, like I said, I mean, it's tough because there's so many scenarios. Like, you know, it's it's set for the people to where that is what drives them, right?
yeah.
Like, I want to shoot a 200, typical, like
Hmm.
net typical, right? Like
Yeah.
that's a big feat.
I get that.
Somebody that shoots a 220 net typical, that is insane, right?
Yeah.
But not everybody is going to be able to do that, right? So it is kind of a way of creating kind of like an elite group.
Hmm.
And if you look at the majority of, like, if you go to the Pope and Young convention, which is coming up in April, everybody should attend. It's actually a really good time. But anyways, um, you know, year after year, which it's a biannual convention, so every other year, a lot of times you see the same guys going up on stage accepting their awards year
Yeah.
after year after year, and you're like, oh Jesus, so and so, like, again, like. And you do notice, like, there is a very common thing amongst those guys. Like, they obviously have the means financially to do it.
Mhm.
Like, they have the time, and all that stuff. But I think it's just a different benchmark to set. But, like, again, and Dylan and I talked about this. It's not like Pope and Young says, like, oh, you killed a hunt. Like, they're not trying to take away from the fact that you killed a 150-inch gross typical that netted 135.
Yeah.
That's still, I mean, it's a Pope and Young animal, right?
Yeah.
And again, if you want to go off a gross, go off a gross. It's just for the record books, they go off a net score. And
Yeah.
I think it's also a way to kind of limit, like, the amount of entries too, because they
Mm,
only produce a record book every 3 years. So,
okay.
if you did it based on gross, you know what the entries would be?
Oh,
It'd
it'd
be
be
insane.
insane.
Like, they would never be able to manage
Keep
it.
up with it. Yeah.
So I think
Think-
there's a lot that goes in it. And again, I feel bad, and I apologize that I don't have the legit good answer for you, other than, it's not for everybody, but for the people that do chase those net scores, I mean, that is an elite group of people. So,
Yeah. I
you know,
mean, that answer is
I would love, I
good.
mean, I think I have a couple animals that I could enter,
Yeah.
but again, I don't. There's part of me that wants to, because it would be pretty cool to open up a record book and be like, "Yep, you know, if
Yeah.
I, like, if and when I have kids someday, like, yep, you're old man. Look at that, the
Yeah.
2031st whitetail in the record books. Like,
I can
like,
I can see it now at a family reunion, walking in with a record book in your hand, like, "Hey, you little shit, come over here. Look what
yeah,
Grandpappy did when before you came along and ruined it." Just
yeah. Back in the day, that was the 1,000th whitetail. Oh shit, now it's 3,000 and something. Well, it's still in, but so
yeah,
there is some cool, like Kurt, like between him and his dad. I mean, I know he was working on getting all of his dad's, former trophy scored so they could get him entered. And so, I mean, it is a cool thing. It's not for everybody. It doesn't have to be for everybody, but I will say, I talked a lot of shit about Pope and Young in the past before I joined.
hmm,
The more involved I've gotten, the more I've appreciated what they do. It doesn't mean it hasn't come with my frustrations, and I always will have frustrations because I
yeah,
want it to be Scott's club and not Pope and Young club. But I see the opportunity, and I think that's where I get frustrated. Is I see the opportunity, and it's just, it is a slow, change is slow to take place, but in the end they do a lot of really good things, and to you don't have to partake in the record books, but it is addicting. I mean, I find
yeah,
myself, if I'm eating lunch, like, I'll just scroll through, and really what it's taught me is just, what I thought was like a big animal. It's like, man, it's really not that big. Like, when you
hmm.
start looking at, like, especially like the elk,
Oh yeah,
like some of the elk that were taken, it's like, holy Jesus. Like, I think a 300-inch bull is a big bull, which it is. I mean, a 300-inch bull is a damn good bull. But it's like, when you look at how many bulls that have been entered in the record book in that 300 class, you're like, oh, like, okay, there's actually been quite a few people that have killed a 3-inch bull, but how many guys have killed a 350, 360, 390? And you're like, holy shit, there's a guy that killed a 460. Like, damn,
Yeah.
like it's addicting to start paging through. But again, it doesn't have to be for everybody. But I think the importance is that they hold the standard for measuring. And like now, Pope and Young and Boone and Crockett, they have adapted the same, scoring and measuring system.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what's important because, how many times has a buddy text you and be like, oh, just killed a booner. And you look at it, you're like, there's no freaking way that's a Boone and Crockett,
Yeah.
right? And then you're like, well, let me put a tape to it. And then if you actually know how to score them the right way, and all of a sudden it measures out at like 160, which is still a damn good deer.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, oh, no, I'm telling everybody it's a 170, and I'm like, you can tell everybody what you want. It's not
It's
it.
not bad. Yeah. We
So
actually had
I
that
think it holds
happen.
people a little more accountable, but
Yeah.
especially like I'll make fun of them, and I'll probably get. I'm sure somebody will say something, but like the TV people,
Oh, yeah.
oh yeah, just shot a 150. I'm like,
It's a 130.
maybe, maybe. So it's
Yeah.
it's kind of comical, but again, like when you're at the convention and you see the people, because I mean the cool thing about the convention is they bring all the animals for that recording period. So from the last 3 years, all the animals getting entered are there.
Holy crap.
So on display.
Where
And
is this at?
so this year it's in Glendale, Arizona.
Dang it. I was hoping
Yeah.
to be somewhat closer.
No,
I have family there.
They move them every year, but it's pretty damn impressive to be sitting in that room, and then especially if you see the same guy go up there 5 or 6 times, and
Yeah.
you kind of just want to beat the shit out of the dude, but at the same time, you're like, you know what, man, kudos to you. Like,
Dude, I'd grab and be like, all right, man, tell me the secret. Are you
well,
spending
and I
hundreds,
mean,
thousands, or what?
like the gentleman, I can't remember his full name, but I mean, he killed the first bull elk in Wisconsin with a bow. Like when Wisconsin just recently opened up
Yeah.
an elk season, and he was the first one to harvest a bull with a bow. Which I mean, one to even get that tag. I mean, you're like, how did you get that tag?
Yeah.
And this is the same guy that has drawn all these other exclusive tags. But when you got it, and like I said, when you have the means to do it, but I mean, I couldn't wait to talk to him because growing up in Wisconsin and growing up in the area where they introduced the elk, I mean,
Yeah.
that's like a dream, right? And but then to
Yeah.
have this guy here that shot one with a bow, like all I wanted to do was hear the story. And I mean, I knew right where he killed it because I know
Yeah.
where elk are, but because I grew up there, but to hear the story, I mean, it's like, man, that would be cool, So it like, you know, I think like again, just going back, like, it's not a perfect system, it's not a perfect club, but in the end, it's a great organization if you're a bow hunter. Uh,
Yeah.
and it's definitely one that I'm sure over the next couple of years, my participation will kind of diminish just because as my tenure on the board comes to an end. But I'll always be involved at some capacity because I truly do believe in what they do and what they do for us as bow hunters. And if we lose bow hunting, then
What's the point of living?
well, yeah, I mean, what else am I
I
gonna
mean,
do?
really though. I
Work on my
mean, we ran into that. It's funny, because it's kind of a hypocritical situation. And I know we probably need to wrap up here soon, but I do need to tell you this, that this past season, one of my buddies at a spot that I'm hunting now that had two, I'd say at least two, maybe three Pope and Young bucks after he killed one of the big ones he was after. I was hunting those, and dude, they were all of, for Georgia, a 125 or up is good, right?
Mhm. I mean, that's the same for our area here in Minnesota,
Yeah.
Northwest Minnesota, same thing.
So he shot this one buck, and it was actually the same night that I had my target buck show up. It was a long night. We tracked this deer for a mile, got chased by coyotes, it was the whole thing. I remember when we walked up on that deer, I looked at him and I said, "You just shot your first Pope and Young." And what's funny about it is hypocritical is a perfect word because everybody wants to bash them. Everybody wants to say, "Oh, why are you doing the net?" But then in Georgia, that's our standard. Like you don't hear
Mhm.
people say, "Oh, I shot a booner." It's all I shot a Pope and Young. I shot, two Pope and Youngs. One of my good friends, Jay Maxwell, shot over 30 Pope and Youngs. That's like a thing. That's a milestone for Georgia hunters.
Yeah.
And Unfortunately, I thought it was a Pope and Young. I'm one of those guys, I guess, that I'm like, oh, dude, it's definitely Pope and Young. It was 121. It was 4 inches short.
Yep.
And I got mad. When he told me that, I was like, dude, no way. Call that score up, man. He missed something. And he was like, no, when he scored it wasn't as symmetrical as we thought. I mean, I'll send you a photo of the buck. It looks Pope and Young all day. But
But I mean, but there again, I mean, you just learned, right?
exactly.
Like, man,
Exactly.
man. So now, I mean, the next one, you're like, man, buddy of mine killed a deer just like this. I was wrong. So, I mean, I undershoot everything now because
So do I.
we all think animals are bigger than they really are, unless you've truly killed like multiple,
150s, then you see a
big
160.
animals.
You're
But
like, that's
man, and
bigger.
I think that's the cool thing is that like I said, it just keeps everybody, honest, and it gives you a metric to go off of. Because then when you actually do hit that Pope and Young score of 125, you're like, I did it.
Yep.
I did
Yep.
it, you know? And like I said, I think it challenges you and it sets future benchmarks, like,
It gives me something to work towards.
right. Like you knock your first, okay, I got my first Pope and Young whitetail. Now I'm going to go for a 150, or
Yep.
now I'm going to move on to mule deer and try to kill a Pope and Young mule deer. And then next thing you know, you start looking at all these other opportunities. And
Hmm.
then next thing you know, you're on your way to, your super 10, and then your super 10, maybe you keep going and go to your super slam. Like it's addicting. And like I said, the more I hang around like the Pope and Young community, like I said, there's definitely the old timers that wish we were still using stick and string and flint tips and compounds are the devil and
Yep.
illuminated sight, blah, mechanical broadheads. Like there's still that crowd, but in the end, it's still a great group of people, and nobody nobody cares about conservation and animals more than hunters, and I would even say more than bow hunters because we're so close to them when we
Hmm.
are hunting. So it's a great group. So
Dude, what a great way to end this episode. We got to talk about the proof. We got to maybe talk a little shit. I don't know. But then we also got to talk about Pope and Young, which I want to get you. So would it be possible later this year, maybe in a month or two, a couple months? I know tax going to be coming up, so you're going to be super busy. But would we be able to do an episode on Pope and Young? Maybe get you and Bucky both on to be able to talk about that? Because
Yeah, I mean Bucky is the guy to. I mean,
okay,
yeah, like even still, I mean, you know, again, being on the board, like I don't know as much as I should, but again, I have a very small, severely damaged brain. So I don't remember a lot, but I mean Bucky, I mean he is an official measurer. I mean that dude, like I can text him a picture of a buck, and he
mhm.
will be within an inch of.
Well, I've got about $6 to send him because I
Yeah,
need to
I mean
know.
he is, but I mean he does. I mean he's scored I don't know how many animals, but
Yeah,
no, Bucky. I mean Bucky is legit one of the best people you will ever meet in your life. I mean the biggest heart. I mean the son of a bitch just won a sheep hunt from sheep show.
really?
Yeah, did you see that?
No, I didn't,
Yeah, I freaking won a sheep hunt. So
dude. That's
yeah, now
amazing.
he's going on his first sheep hunt, and it couldn't have happened to a better guy. But
Yeah.
no, I mean, he's way more knowledgeable when it comes to the scoring and all that stuff. But yeah, it would be no. I mean, more. I'd be, dude. You want to do a podcast every month? I'd, I'd
Don't tempt me.
probably run out of things to talk about. But
And we can
talk
talk
about
about
the things
anything. Talk
that remote,
politics. Talk about the Grammys. Whatever you want.
stuff
I
that I
don't.
don't pay any attention to, and
Yeah. Yeah. True. Well, look, man. I appreciate you coming on.
yeah,
For
man,
those who listen to this, go get you a proof. You won't be disappointed. Um, I guess give us a shameless plug real quick. Where can we find Dialed? Where can we sign up for Pope and Young? You kind of already said it, but just sort of
yeah,
cap
I
it
mean,
off.
Dialed, it's just dialedarchery.com for our website, social media, it's, Dialed Archery. Pope and Young, I think it's popeandyoung.org. Otherwise, I mean, anybody that's attending a TAC event this summer, I mean, stop by and, we'll have some cool stuff going on for the TAC events this year. So, yeah,
Put
I
in.
mean, maybe not. I mean, now that you got me thinking about it, it's
There
just,
you go.
you know, that's a lot of pudding.
Well, I mean, swing by a Kroger or something or a Walmart at every place. It won't be that bad. I mean, I'm pretty sure not everybody likes pudding. I'm more
I
of a
was,
vanilla guy, but
man, our tack expenses were so high this year. Why? Wow, I only spent like 40 grand on pudding, Jello.
be fine. It was worth it. You gave out stickers, more people bought the proof. It's all good.
Yeah.
Blame me. If they want to get mad, tell Taylor it was my idea.
We almost got to have somebody dressed up as like Billy Madison, just handing out snack packs. That's the ticket right there. So
Yep, that's it.
Taylor says I don't have a marketing mindset.
Well, Scott, thanks for coming on, man. This was a really
Yeah,
fun
man.
episode. I'm excited about what's happening with Dialed, and yeah, man, we're gonna have to do another one soon for sure. It's not gonna be a year. I can promise you that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It's always fun. It's good to catch up, and yeah, looking forward to the future.
Sounds good, man. Well, I will see you at TAC.
Sounds good.